Aditya Birla Group presents Budget 2015, the Make in India Budget, co-presented by SBI. Taxing times.
Girish, as a country we've been dancing around this for the last decade, and I don't think there's any clear political consensus on should we create zones, should those be export-oriented zones or domestic manufacturing-oriented zones, and therefore then what kind of incentives can you make available? What do you think will enable Make in India?
I think a combination of both. So we are saying we want to really make smart cities happen, we want to make these corridors happen, we want to make sure India is inclusively growing, which is backward area happening. For that, it's important that even domestic consumed manufacturing is encouraged. This SEZ holiday was more for this tax concessions when, we were forex fragile.
Sure.
And today if you see the oil prices, we look forex okay. I don't know how long will it last, but today it looks okay. So I think concessions have to be a combination of both.
Tax policy, what should the support tax policy be?
Tax holidays, no dividend distribution tax. You can have innovation, there's no math on the R&D stuff which is happening, and you can do so many different things with it.
On exports, don't levy any income tax. It's zero income tax. On exports, no excise duty.
So this is equal to what the SEZ policy was.
Because if you are doing something for the service for the
country. For how many years though, sir? Because the SEZ policy incentives are coming to an end now. So are you saying for a 10-year holiday, 5-year holiday, 20-year holiday?
For exports, perpetually.
Perpetually.
For exports, because you are earning foreign exchange for the country.
Why should an exporter get a privilege over, let's say, a domestic manufacturer who's going to substitute imports which otherwise happens? After gold, probably the biggest import item was electronics. If I'm going to manufacture in-house, money saved, foreign exchange saved is money earned, foreign exchange earned. So why should it be different? I'm quite with you on that. All that I say is when we talk of business and what is it that is required to revive manufacturing, to revive business, to generate employment. One, I think we need significant infrastructure because that's an impediment today. Why are we not globally competitive? In India, I think we have the best of minds. We have the best of entrepreneurial skills. Why are we not competitive? One, we lack infrastructure. Ports, whether it is ports, power, transportation, logistics, whatever. Second, I think we are mostly, when it comes to our businesses, we are capital starved. So I think one other incentive, because a lot has been spoken about other things, I think apart from infrastructure and the incentivization of infrastructure, what we need is we must ensure that savings, we have significant savings in India, but they ought to be channelized in the right manner to financial instruments. We need to deepen our debt markets. We need to ensure that even capital is available to these businesses in a manner that is efficient. Otherwise, we are not globally competitive because the Indian businessman has to pay a much bigger cost of capital. And therefore and how can tax policy drive that? Probably we had 1023G at one time section in the Income Tax Act, where an investor into infrastructure also is incentivized. I am now trying to channelize my savings into financial instruments into specific sectors which there is a crying need to ensure are re-energized or revitalized.
So what more can this budget do? Since
this budget
already exist.
Right, this budget can help in deepening debt markets, which is big.
Specific steps.
Specific steps could be, for example, by giving concessional tax treatment to interest for investments into specific sectors, corporate bonds of companies engaged in specific sectors. There could be minimal withholding taxes on those. There could be significant amount of capital gains benefit in case those bonds are sold at a capital gain later on. Exemptions available like we have for shares. Why should there be a difference? If the richer class which can afford to take risks can invest in equity and get exemption, why should maybe a smaller person, a poorer person who has savings of a small amount not invest in safe, secured bonds and not get the same exemption?
Okay, so those are benefits to channel investments into infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Benefits for infrastructure projects as well, for instance, as power generation enjoys right now.
Absolutely, and there should not be a math on that for the simple reason that otherwise
keep coming back to math.
Right, and there should not be math on that. I don't want to raise that point again, but I'm just clarifying that we said that. But I think that's what we need to do. If we ensure that we give enough incentives for these sectors and leverage on our strength, which is our domestic market, we will have a globally competitive infrastructure. We will then have a globally competitive manufacturing base, which will help generate employment and growth.
All right. So, Girish, we have consensus on please streamline MAT. take away MAT where other incentives are being utilized, because otherwise MAT kills the benefit of that incentive. Definitely don't make MAT so onerous that the incentive is pointless, right? That's one. Pranav has suggested a bunch of incentives to direct money towards infrastructure and for infrastructure projects as well. We already have a bunch of incentives available for R&D and technology in the country. What more do you want to add to this list that you expect from the government in this budget?
See, from this budget perspective, fiscal policy perspective, nothing much more. I mean, GST is clearly everybody is waiting for an integrated market, and that's a common topic wherever you discuss. I think, as you started with, I think we are just looking at just the tax portion of it. Tax policies will not make in India happen.
No, that's fine. We've discussed that. In tax, what do you expect in the budget besides what we've already discussed so far?
You can look at smaller things like, if you're taking technology, you're borrowing collaborative technology from somebody, withholding tax rate should be dropped, maybe 5%, 10%. International borrowings in particular sectors should be reduced. You should encourage foreign money by having clarity of tax laws, giving certainty, and having car deferral and so on and so forth, because which company has set up a manufacturing plant in India from overseas also? Okay. It's been a while since that has happened. So encourage the bigger, sorry.
Go ahead. Girish, I was just thinking two asks I wanted to kind of, when you were saying, and sorry for butting in. One is stability of tax. Whatever they're doing, can we say that we will have stability? And
for the next 5 years, 10 years.
So I'm just saying,
that's not just for Make in India. That's also for being able to live in India.
Otherwise, they come to India. Let's take a person from outside coming to India, and if I do today and I take over in the next budget, that's one. Second is, can we make it administration proof that what is being given in the by the budget is taken away in all the administrative calculations that are done, like R&D. Then they say, oh, this is not counted, and this is not counted, and that's not counted, and then it becomes. And who does this? People who are not intended, but they are the consequence. So can we get in administrative? I'm sorry, Girish, you can go ahead. But I thought these are two important aspects of that point.
Anything else you want to add to the list quickly, Girish? This covers it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. I have a couple of
things.
Please
do.
Remove all the surcharges in this. There is surcharge on this, education says, they say all over 1 crore of income if you are earning something, so there is additional tax. Remove, at least to make it beginning, to remove all these things.
So where is revenue going to come?
No, I will tell you. I will tell you that.
Okay.
And second is, you have a phased program of the tax reduction. So next 5 years, these are going to be the tax rates. The government has to give a commitment. Every year, I am going to reduce the corporate tax rate by 1%, 1%, 1%.
Why not personal income tax rate?
No, everything. I'm just coming to this. So you reduce, like Singapore has an attractive tax policy. The tax rates are low, both personal as well as corporate. You bring the domestic tax rates on par with best destination like Singapore. So in a phased manner, not in this. But how does the government compensate this? So one way is through incremental GDP. Second, this country has a spending power. This country doesn't have the tax paying ability. This is the basic dichotomy. I know many people, friends, families who have the purchasing ability to buy large homes, BMW cars, Mercs and all those things, but they don't have the tax paying ability.
That's called criminal, sir.
Because system is allowing. So who is criminal then, right? From politicians to bureaucrats to business people to everyone is a criminal.
So reduce rates and streamline tax policies for better compliance.
How do you streamline this in a quick manner? Bring income tax on the spending. Income tax, not on excise.
Indirect taxes.
Not indirect tax. It is a direct tax.
Income tax on spending.
Income tax on spending. Say for example, if I am buying a BMW, levy 20% tax on this and go on claim in your return by way of TDS. So the entire spending which is not getting accounted today, it will come under net, tax net.
Okay. Interesting suggestion.
I'm
sure there can be much debate on this, but I won't debate it right now. We'll accept it as an out-of-the-box suggestion.
That's how we lose the time, keep on debating for years together and don't do the things.
Okay. What would you add to the list of what you expect from the budget?
GST, certainly.
Yeah.
It's going to make
that's fine.
GST. And second is take away the early investment disadvantage or disincentive. Just to give a perspective that anybody who goes to a particular place to invest first, he kind of starts at a very low scale because it's still not taken out. Once, couple of years later, when things all become all right, everybody else flocks to that place.
For example, how do you take away that disadvantage?
So for the guy who comes in early, make the end date common to everybody. but the start date of the first guy who comes in is a little longer than the guy who comes later. For example, if you give 10 years, after 2 years it should start. The first guy who comes in gets 14 years instead of 12.
That's what
so
you mean.
that's what I mean. That is a real early disadvantage. So nobody wants to go first. But with this, more people will want to start faster because they will have a bigger advantage to do. So
The principle, some principles.
My list is very long at this point in time. It starts with MAT, it has inverted duty structure, it's got infrastructure incentives, it's got better tax administration, it's got more R&D benefits, it's got removed surcharges, rationalized tax rates, it's got income tax on spending, it's got takeaway first mover disadvantage. What do you want to add to this?
Should I say abolish income tax?
Sounds like that almost, doesn't it? Realistic expectation.
Yes, I would feel very focused incentives rather than across the board incentives is what is required. And when I say incentives, complete, not taken back through the MAT route. Second, I think a big shift in mindset in the way this law is administered. We need a stable, definite, trust and confidence building tax administration. I think these two things from a tax policy and administration standpoint should be enough.
Aditya Birla Group presents Budget 2015, the Make in India Budget, co-presented by SBI. Taxing time.